For context, I used to live in downtown Springfield, Massachusetts, which is kind of a dangerous area to live. I really liked it there. But I lived on Main Street, and there was a Starbucks within like a 5-minute walk of my apartment. And one morning I was walking to the Starbucks, and somebody stopped me and asked me what time it was. I told him, and then I crossed the road, and he followed me. And he kept trying to make small talk with me, and I wasn't like super reciprocating. But I was answering. Anyways, I go into the Starbucks and he kept walking down the road. I get my nervous bumblebee cake pop and a cold brew. And when I'm about to leave, I see him crouched behind a car parked on the side of the road outside of the Starbucks. And I said, "Oh, that's mysterious and scary." So he had to come all the way back around. He kept walking. He had to come all the way back around to do that. Okay. So the Starbucks was on a corner, and I just stood in the door and was watching the crosswalk sign. And I waited for it to turn like green to walk. And as soon as it did, I booked it out of the Starbucks and I ran down the road, like in the opposite direction from my apartment. Because I didn't want him to follow me back to my apartment. So I started walking down that way. And after I got pretty far down that road, I turned around and he was still right behind me. And I said, "Oh no, what's happening?" I keep walking and I'm like freaking out. And I come across this grocery store and I went in. We're about 15 minutes away from my apartment at this point. I go into that grocery store and I kind of walk through some of the aisles, and then I look back out and he's just pacing back and forth in front of the store. Okay, cool. I sit in there for about an hour trying to wait him out, and he just never leaves. And I was wearing, at the time it was like the middle of winter, I was wearing like a neon green beanie and a pink hoodie. And I took all of that off and stuffed it in my purse, and I found a back exit. I don't know if I was allowed to leave that way, but I found a back exit and I left that way, and it popped me out on the opposite side of the block. So I was able to walk up the street and then cut back over on the street that my apartment was on. And at one point I cut over and I looked, and he was still pacing outside of the grocery store. And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." I was so scared. I made it back to my apartment fine, obviously. And I called my family and I told them, and my brother bought me a taser. And he was like, "That is never happening again." So that's the story of my nervous bumblebee cake pop.